kind of woman who snoops through her husband's things. But that afternoon, while I was cleaning out the coat closet in the hallway, always a battleground of old receipts, spare keys, and baseball tickets from who knows when, something slipped out, as quiet and sudden as a slap without sound. A Polaroid photo? I bent down and picked it up without a second thought. But the moment the image started to develop, my heart felt like it stopped. It wasn't the kind of charming old photo people keep for nostalgia. No. It was the kind of photo that only exists when someone wants to capture something secret. The kind of moment that should never see daylight. Two people, intimate, bare, not a single thread of clothing between them. The man was my husband, Lucas, 38 years old, CEO of a tech company in Austin, Texas. I recognized him immediately, those broad shoulders, the teardrop-shaped birthmark on his lower back that I'd kissed hundreds of times. 7 years of marriage doesn't let you forget those things. But what took the air from my lungs was the woman next to him. Her face was turned away, but the long chestnut curls, the tilt of her head, part shy, part intentional, sparked something deeply familiar. I stood frozen in the hallway, the photo still in my hand. The house was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat echoing. The house Lucas and I had repainted last year together, where we argued for 20 minutes over whether evening cloud or violet mist suited the living room better. Now those walls felt like they were pressing in, suffocating me with their fake warmth. The front door opened, making me flinch. "Sadie! I'm home!" His voice echoed from the foyer, followed by the familiar sound of keys dropping into the ceramic bowl I made for him in a pottery class for my 35th birthday. A birthday he completely forgot, if not for a reminder from his assistant. I shoved the photo into the pocket of my jeans, patted my face lightly to flush some color back in, then headed downstairs like nothing had happened. Lucas was loosening his tie, eyes lighting up when he saw me. "I was thinking of ordering Thai from your favorite place. Want to add seafood noodles?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Sounds great." He came closer and kissed my forehead like always. His usual cologne lingered, but tonight, mixed with something unfamiliar, something that didn't belong to me. That night, I lay awake, watching him sleep. His face peaceful, every breath steady, as if nothing was wrong. I didn't wake him, didn't confront, didn't accuse. I needed to be sure, I needed to know who that woman was. 3 weeks after finding that photo, I had become someone entirely different. No longer the Sadie who made coffee for her husband every morning before work. No longer the wife who believed in late-night meetings and the too tired let's talk tomorrow excuses. I became someone who tracked every step he took, and every trace he left behind. I started with his phone. Lucas always kept it face down on the table, a habit I once thought was endearing. Now, just raised red flags. One Monday morning while he was in the shower, I quietly unlocked it, using Face ID. A move he never expected. I'd practiced dozens of times while he was asleep. In the recently deleted photos, there was nothing obvious, but the call history told a different story. The same number kept showing up, no name attached, and no regular iMessage conversations either. Instead, he was using encrypted messaging apps I hadn't seen before. The sense that something bigger was being hidden pushed me to act. I searched his car, something I usually avoided since Lucas hated anyone rearranging his space. In the glove box, under the fabric lining, was another phone. Still dusty. I couldn't get in, but when I charged it and turned it on, one message lit up from Signal. "My love, miss you already. Sunday's dinner will be hard to pretend again. My love." I closed my eyes for a few seconds to steady myself. That message wasn't just proof of an affair. It hinted at something more disturbing. She was going to be at Sunday's family dinner. I started retracing everything. Every shared credit card statement, every surprise meeting, every shirt that smelled wrong, every unfamiliar tie. One time, he said he was meeting an old contact in Dallas, but the Uber receipt led to a residential neighborhood, less than 5 miles from our house. A fancy flower shop sent an invoice. She loves these. I cross-checked his calendar with the location history from the AirTag I secretly tucked into his trunk. He hadn't gone to the office like he claimed. Another time, when he said he had a company dinner at the Hilton, I found the minibar receipt. 2 glasses of white wine. Dinner for 2. I used to think I'd know right away if I were being cheated on. But no. Lucas's betrayal wasn't a knife to the heart. It was more like poison gas. Slow, invisible, odorless, and enough to silently destroy everything. I tried to find clues to her identity, but Lucas was careful. No name, no pictures, just fragments of messages, sometimes referring to childhood memories. One especially strange line. That trip to Pine Lake, when we were little. And Dad's old red pickup truck. Lucas didn't have a childhood in Texas. He grew up in Bend, Oregon, and moved to Austin at 22 to launch his career. So how could he reminisce about elementary school days in Round Rock? Who was really behind those memories? I started reviewing everyone who had lived nearby. Friends, co-workers, old neighbors. And then the puzzle piece landed, fitting too perfectly. Sunday dinner was a tradition from my side of the family, not his. We hosted it once a month, always at my parents' house. My mom cooked her famous roast. My dad brought out the special occasion wine. My brother and his wife sat at the head of the table with their kids. And then there was Jenna, my cousin, 27, who lived with us for 2 years after her parents divorced. She had recently moved back to Austin after a career reset break. And Lucas, who had suddenly shown interest in reconnecting with family, was the one who insisted we invite Jenna last time. I froze when I reread that message. Can't wait for family dinner Sunday. Pretending gets harder each time. I stared blankly as I set the phone down. If my instincts were right, the one betraying me wasn't just the man sharing my bed every night. She was also the one sitting at my family's dinner table, calling me cousin. That Sunday family dinner, I couldn't swallow a single bite. Everyone had gathered in my parents' backyard in Round Rock, the same place we grilled steaks and shared old stories, once a month. The scene was familiar. Laughter, the scent of grilled meat, string lights twinkling between old oak trees. But I wasn't the same. I watched, I listened. Lucas, of course, knew how to play his part. He laughed with my dad, helped my mom in the kitchen, entertained the kids. But his eyes didn't avoid me. They avoided someone else. Jenna. She wore an olive silk dress, chestnut curls cascading down her shoulders, a glass of white wine in hand, smiling like she was posing for a travel magazine cover. And then, I saw it, that one moment. The way Lucas looked at her. That wasn't how a man looks at his wife's cousin. His eyes paused at her wrist where she wore the silver bracelet I'd seen in a credit card charge once. Jenna, as if by reflex, tucked her hand behind her back and laughed like nothing had happened. My heart didn't race, no tears, just a cold current slicing down my spine. After dinner, while everyone moved inside to watch the baseball game, I excused myself to the upstairs bathroom. The one Jenna had just used, where she'd left her purse on the marble sink. The beige bag was familiar, unlocked. I didn't hesitate. I opened her phone. She still used the same passcode she had in high school, the birthday of Toby, the dog we all used to love. Part of me hoped I'd find nothing. That hope dissolved the moment I opened the Signal app. Hundreds of messages. From Lucas, saved under L. Lucas. I dreamed about you last night. Woke up thinking I was still beside you. Jenna, don't make me miss you more. Sunday dinner again, another performance. Lucas, I hate pretending, but we're almost there. Freedom's coming. Jenna, she'll never understand. Sadie's always been too sensitive. It felt like someone was squeezing my throat. The messages kept cutting deeper. She'll get over it. She's strong, right? Don't feel guilty. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just in love. I wanted to throw her phone across the room, but instead my grip tightened, the instinct of someone clinging to the last piece of wreckage in a shipwreck. I took screenshots of everything, messages, photos, even GPS locations from their scheduling app that confirmed secret meetups. Locations lit up. A small hotel in San Marcos, a short-term rental in South Austin, all perfectly matching Lucas's business trips. Then came the blow from the past week. Lucas, the apartment you picked is perfect. I can imagine living there with you. Jenna, one more week. I'll talk to her. They were planning to leave, just hadn't told me yet. And I The one who paid Jenna's tuition when she couldn't afford to switch majors. Who helped her out of a painful breakup. Who let her live in my home for nearly a year when she lost her job. I had become the outsider in my own life. I shut the phone, placed it back like I hadn't touched it. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. But I knew one thing. From that moment on, there was no going back. Downstairs, Jenna smiled at me as if nothing had happened. She wrapped an arm around me and whispered, "You've been working too hard lately. I really worry about you." I smiled back. But inside, one thought rang clear. You stole everything from me, and still have the nerve to look me in the eye. From that day forward, I was no longer the Sadie Lucas thought he knew, but he never noticed. I still smiled in the mornings, poured his coffee, kissed his cheek before work. I even asked what he wanted for dinner, ordered his favorite Thai takeout, played his go-to jazz tracks to help him unwind. I played the devoted wife with flawless precision, because if I was going to take down a man who had acted his part for over a year, I had to outperform him. But when the sun went down, I became someone else. I started with simple tools, a tiny microphone hidden in the essential oil diffuser on Lucas's desk, a discreet camera in the bookshelf corner, the spot he thought was private enough to make video calls while I slept. When he left the house, I accessed his computer through a synced secondary account on Google Chrome, the one he thought I didn't even know existed. I downloaded browsing history, retrieved emails he thought were deleted, a few PDFs, a rental agreement, an event calendar linked to a strange iCloud account, tied to an iPad he'd accidentally broken 2 months ago. I quietly stored everything on an external drive hidden in my winter sweater drawer, a drawer Lucas never opened. Then I hired a private investigator. I chose a small agency in San Antonio, nearly a 2-hour drive from Austin. I used my old high school name, Sadie Weller, just in case anyone decided to snoop. I gave them photos of Jenna and Lucas, their office addresses, and a list of Lucas's recent so-called business trips. Just 3 days later, they sent me a nearly 30-page report. Inside were photos of Jenna and Lucas entering and exiting the same apartment in the South Congress area, a neighborhood Lucas once said he couldn't stand because of the traffic. One shot showed them hugging in the hallway. Another captured Lucas brushing Jenna's hair back while sitting in the car. But what made my blood run cold, they had been there 5 times. All while I was in Dallas taking care of my mom after her back surgery. I had left home for 3 full weeks to manage her medications, therapy sessions, and everything Jenna had claimed she couldn't handle because she was in Paris working with an independent art gallery. Paris? I pulled up the email Jenna had sent to the family. Photos with the Eiffel Tower in the distance, Parisian cafes, delicate crepes plated just so. I forwarded them to a friend who's a professional photographer. A few minutes later, she messaged back. Stock photos. I'd used some of these for a blog post last year. Jenna had never left Texas. I wanted to scream, but instead, I logged into our joint bank account. Large withdrawals had been happening steadily over the past 5 months, several $1,000s each time, transferred to another account not under my name. I cross-checked some of the other transactions. Many of them matched the timeline of Jenna's apartment rental, and others were for luxury items that never showed up in our house. Lucas had been moving money, and he'd done it while I was away caring for my mother, trusting him to handle our finances. But he forgot one thing. I managed our investment records. The separate accounts I created before we got married still existed, and I knew how to protect them. That night, while Lucas was asleep, I opened my personal laptop and logged into my accounting dashboard. I transferred every cent from our shared investment account into my legally authorized personal one. I didn't steal from him. I simply secured what was mine before he had a chance to take it. I also withdrew every penny from the fund my parents had once given the 2 of us as capital to open a small restaurant, the one Jenna had suggested we use to invest in a shared dream between the 3 of us. Their dream, built on the ruins of mine. I didn't cry anymore. Whatever feelings I had were long frozen. All that remained was clarity, cold, sharp precision. I reviewed everything again, hard drives, documents, bank statements, GPS logs. Every puzzle piece was in place. Now all I had to do was end the show they didn't know was already over. I chose a Saturday evening, right before the week Lucas was set to be officially announced as a partner at his firm, a career milestone he'd bragged about to every family member for the past 2 months. I sent invitations to both sides of the family, ordered white lilies, my mom's favorite, and hired a private chef to prepare a 7-course meal right in our home. The table was set with white linens, crystal glasses sparkled under candlelight, and in the corner of the room hung the 65-inch TV, where I pretended I'd be playing a tribute video to Lucas's journey. He suspected nothing. In fact, he seemed moved. "You've always been by my side," he whispered, wrapping his arms around me as I arranged the wine glasses. I smiled, turned to him, and gently straightened his collar. "Of course." Guests began to arrive, my parents, my brother and his family, a few of Lucas's colleagues. Jenna was last. In a tight black dress, lips painted a deep brown red, too formal for a family dinner but perfect for someone pretending to be the star of the night. She walked over and kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. "You look amazing," she said, eyes darting briefly toward Lucas. "Thank you," I replied. "You both look radiant." Everyone took their seats. Lucas was the first to speak, raising his glass. "Thank you, Sadie, for putting this beautiful evening together. I wouldn't have achieved what I have today without you." He smiled at me. "And of course, thanks to the whole family for always supporting me." I tapped my glass against his lightly, my eyes never leaving Jenna. "Before dessert," I said evenly, "I wanted to share a little something about Lucas's journey, just a few images I've quietly collected over the years." I pressed the remote. The large screen lit up. It started with wedding photos, us in our formal wear, under the floral arch, sunlight catching in my hair. Vacation pictures followed, family dinners, sweet snapshots with both our parents. My mom dabbed at her eyes. Lucas squeezed my hand, his gaze soft. I waited a few more seconds, then pressed again. The first image, Lucas hugging Jenna at the door of the South Congress apartment. The second, a message from Lucas to Jenna. "Pretending is getting too hard, just a few more weeks." The third, a lease agreement signed by Lucas W. Hatcher and co-signed by Jenna L. Burns. Silence fell over the room. Only the faint clatter of a child's spoon hitting the floor broke it. I stood, slowly stepping into the center of the room. I think everyone deserves to know exactly what's been going on behind the perfect smiles of Lucas and my cousin. Lucas shot up from his seat, face drained of color. "Sadie, you've got this all wrong." I raised a hand to silence him. "No, I've just been waiting until I had enough proof." I continued the slideshow. Bank transfer data from our joint account to Lucas's private one. Jenna calling me too sensitive, she'll get used to it. And finally, a photo captured by a hidden camera in our home. Jenna and Lucas seated close together, his arm wrapped around her, in my own office. Jenna jumped from her chair. "Sadie, it's not what you think. Don't," I cut her off, my voice calm, eerily calm. "You never left the state, Jenna. Those Paris photos were just stock images. You were here the whole time I was taking care of Mom, and you used the money our parents gave me to rent that apartment with Lucas." My dad stood frozen, lips trembling. "Jenna, is it true?" No one answered. Jenna's silence was the clearest confession of all. I turned to everyone, but that's not all. She used Lucas to squeeze her way into a prestigious art gallery, that upcoming exhibit she's about to open next month. It's not talent, it's connections. I clicked again, an email sent to every gallery across the Boston area, providing proof of the inappropriate relationship between the artist and her sponsor. And finally, an email from the director of Hart and Bell Gallery. "Jenna Burns' exhibition is hereby cancelled. We do not work with individuals who lack integrity." Lucas roared. "You're going to destroy everything, Sadie." Answered, "No, you already did. I just turned on the light." No one said a word after the screen went black. Only the chandelier's glow remained, flickering against half-glow wine glasses in a room full of stunned, confused, furious stares. Lucas collapsed into his chair, fists clenched but too drained to keep hiding. Jenna stood stiff, eyes fixed on the hardwood floor like it might save her from the weight of every gaze in the room. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out 2 envelopes. I placed the first on the table, sliding it toward Lucas. "Divorce papers. If you sign them right here, under the terms listed, I won't forward evidence of your ethical violations to the company board, and I won't release these images to the press. He stared at the envelope like it held a death sentence. You really want to ruin me? I looked up, my gaze empty. I didn't ruin anything. You did that the moment you chose to betray me, with my own cousin. Lucas stayed silent. That final line sucked the breath from the entire room. I turned to Jenna, laying the second envelope on the table in front of her. A formal waiver of inheritance from our parents' estate, and repayment of every dollar I've supported you with over the past 5 years, tuition, rent, study abroad, plus interest. She looked up, quivering. You're joking, right? I answered softly but clearly, no. And if you refuse, the screenshots of your messages with Lucas will be sent to every art contact in the region, even those you haven't worked with yet. Jenna reached out and touched the envelope but didn't open it. She stammered. You once said you'd always protect me. And you once said I was the only person you trusted, I replied. The difference is, I kept my word. You didn't. My father spoke, his voice low but firm. Jenna, I don't know what you were thinking, but this family has no place for betrayal. Jenna opened her mouth to speak, but my mother stepped forward, her hand shaking as it rested on my shoulder. How long have you been carrying this alone, Sadie? Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her, and for the first time that night my voice cracked. Because I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. My brother stood, walked around the table, and stopped in front of Lucas. I thought you were part of this family, but you turned it into the backdrop for the cheapest betrayal I've ever seen. Lucas bowed his head. No words, no excuses left. Jenna sat down quietly, pulled a pen from her purse and signed the waiver. Her hands trembled. A tear dropped onto the corner of the paper. No one comforted her. I picked up both envelopes, slid them into my leather bag and returned to my seat. Thank you all for coming to tonight's dinner. I'm sorry it wasn't the joyful gathering you expected. My father stood. Sadie, you don't owe anyone an apology. They do. And if you ever need anything, your parents are here. My mom nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Family won't leave you alone again. Jenna stepped toward me, but I backed away. Not out of rage, but because the distance between us couldn't be measured in words anymore. Lucas stepped forward. I'll sign, but Sadie, I cut him off. Save that explanation. You'll need it for your company legal meeting on Monday. A dry laugh came from one of the guests. No one felt joy, but everyone saw clearly the tide had turned. 1 year later, I live in a small 6th-floor apartment in downtown Austin, overlooking Zilker Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows let in the early sunlight as I read the paper with a hot cappuccino beside a lavender pot I planted the day I moved in. No more fake dinners. No more mornings pouring coffee for a man who had planned his escape behind my back. I live alone. But I'm not lonely. My career at the architecture firm has entered a new chapter. After landing the Houston commercial complex contract, I was appointed project lead, a role I once hesitated to take because I was busy caring for family. Now I give my own ambitions the space they deserve. Lucas is no longer in Austin. After an internal ethics review for conflict of interest and client data misuse, he wasn't fired, but he was transferred to the Salt Lake City branch. Every speaking engagement, interview, and promotion vanished overnight. He tried emailing me just to explain. I never opened it. Jenna went back to Paris, this time for real. Not to host an exhibition, but to escape the eyes of those who once believed in her. She sent me 3 handwritten letters. The first said she was too tired of the family's expectations. The second was an apology, 5 pages long. The third was short. I wish I could go back. I understand if you can't forgive me. I kept all 3 letters in the bottom drawer of my desk, not to revisit the past, but to remind myself I moved on, without needing anyone's approval. My new life has no room for voices that silence my own feelings. I painted my living room walls olive green, the color Lucas once called dark and unsophisticated. I hung my own drawings on them, sketches I make every weekend as a way to release. At times, a grocery aisle still stirs old memories. Lucas's favorite ice cream, a dress Jenna once borrowed. but they no longer carry pain. What once brought pain has become the foundation of a calmer, stronger, more whole version of Sadie. Once, while sitting with my mom at a small cafe near my home, she took my hand and said, "I'm sorry I let you carry it all alone for so long. I see it now. You're the strongest one in this family." I smiled, not answering right away, but in my heart one sentence echoed clearly. They thought I was weak, but it was my silence and steadiness that brought them down. I didn't seek revenge by screaming or exposing them. I simply let them unravel in the very web of greed and deceit they built. As for me, I rebuilt my life piece by piece, not in a rush, but with certainty. This weekend, I'm going to New Mexico with a group of new friends. People who know the whole story and still chose to stay. Not out of pity, but out of respect. I'm no longer the Sadie from a year ago. The one who lived in the shadow of shallow relationships and imposed expectations. Now I live in my own light. And on sunny days like these, I know more clearly than ever. Freedom doesn't come after being hurt. It's something we choose when we're brave enough to let go of what's no longer worthy. Sadie's story is a powerful reminder that the harshest betrayals sometimes come from those we trust most. But instead of retaliating in anger, she chose to rise with reason and strength. In her pain, Sadie didn't just protect her worth. She reclaimed her freedom, dignity, and self-respect with remarkable grace. In real life, some wounds are unavoidable. But how we respond defines who we are, resilient, empowered, and no longer compromising for what we don't deserve. What do you think about how Sadie faced betrayal and rebuilt her life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful and inspiring stories about family and life.